Hi, I'm Nikolai, aka 56 Miner, and today we're unboxing our March Basics box. We're super excited about this box as it includes a new unique charcoal medium, which we'll go over how to use, and I'll share some tips and tricks on how to go about creating a three-dimensional object. Let's get into it. For our surface this month, we have a custom pad from the Arnhem 1618 company. This bright white pad is super absorbent, has a great texture, and is good for a variety of mediums. Our next three items are going to be a set of Derwent tinted charcoal pans, which create a unique take on traditional charcoal. Our colors include dark moss, white, and glowing embers. These pans combine the grit and texture of traditional charcoal with the control of a watercolor medium. Let's grab the brush included in this month's box so we can get a better idea of how those colors look on our Arnhem pad. Unlike traditional watercolor, you will need to add a bit of water in order to get these pans going. We can achieve darker colors by dragging our brush against that pan repeatedly. And by mixing our colors, we can get a nice neutral beige. By layering this pigment, we can also achieve darker values. By mixing our colors with a little bit of white, we can create more opaque layers, so they're not going to be nearly as transparent as those charcoal pans on their own. Depending on how we hold our brush, we can achieve a variety of marks. Here, we can create a simple leaf by using very light to heavy pressure. And depending on how much water you have on your brush, will reveal a bit of the texture of that Arnhem pad. Using just the tip, we can go in and correct any lines or smooth out color. Let's do another leaf, starting with that light pressure and then pushing down and slightly rotating our brush to create that shape. What's nice about the charcoal pans is they will stay active for a bit until they dry, so you can always push that pigment around to create consistent areas of color. Let's create a stem and then go in and use some of the techniques that we talked about in January to create the flower. Taking our glowing embers, I'll go in and establish a few petals, making sure to leave ample white space around them. This is going to help the overall sense of form, and if you're interested in learning more about these techniques, make sure to head over to our YouTube channel where you can check out that January video. Now, I'm not trying to be too realistic here. This is more of an abstract representation, really just exploring the different shapes that our brush can make. As a final touch, I'll go in with that white charcoal just to kind of smooth out some areas and to kind of harmonize the overall piece. You can add highlights with this, but I'm just trying to add a little bit of differentiation from the paper and the paint. Now, if you're looking to create something more three-dimensional this month, there are a few things to keep in mind that'll make your life a lot easier. For this, let's grab the pastel pencil from Generals included in our box to sketch out some simple shapes, which we'll then use our Derwent pans to paint in a three-dimensional way. Let's start with just a simple circle. What I like about these pastel pencils is they'll just fade into the background once we start layering the charcoal pans on top. I'll start with a thin layer of that dark moss color just to separate our sphere from the paper, and then go in and focus on the toned region. This is going to be everything that falls just outside of where the light hits the object. Next, I'll go in and establish a cast shadow, allowing just a little bit of that pigment to bleed into the wet areas of our sphere. Our charcoal pans will reactivate a little bit, so I'm making sure to let areas dry before I go back in and layer more color. Using our white, I'll go in and reinforce that highlight as well as smooth out some of the color transitions on that side of the sphere. Now that we've got some good contrast, I'll go in and focus on the core shadow of the sphere. This falls just outside the lighted area and is really what helps give the illusion of three-dimensional form. As a final touch, I'll go in and clean up those edges. And here we have our fully rendered sphere with those areas labeled. So we have our highlight, which receives the most light, the tone, which is like the local color of the object, the core shadow, which gives us form, and the shadow, which implies that we're on a three-dimensional plane. Let's do this one more time, but let's use a cylinder instead. I'll start by sketching out our flat shape with that pastel pencil, and then taking a medium color, I'll go in and establish our tone. And this time we're going to use the underside of that cylinder as our shadow area. This will help to sell that illusion of three-dimensionality. With my tone completely dry, I'll go in and establish the core shadow, and I'm also going to add a little bit of an outline. This will help to separate our object from the paper. Because we used the bright white of that Artem paper as the highlight color, this object came out a little bit more metallic or shiny. We also have the turning edge, which is a tone or shaded side that helps give the object a sense of three-dimensional form. Let's grab the Kohinoor Gioconda charcoal pencil that's included in this month's box to work in a more traditional charcoal style. Now, one of my favorite things to do with charcoal pencils is a continuous line drawing. You'll need a simple reference photo for this. I'm going to be using a portrait, but you're welcome to use something of an object or a flower, whatever you feel the most comfortable with. Now, the point of a continuous line drawing is to try and create a recognizable image without lifting your pencil too much. I like to go around the outside and get my major shapes established, and then go in and work on those smaller details. By working with a lighter pressure in the beginning, I can always go back in and darken areas up later. And a lighter pressure is really going to showcase that texture of that Artem pad. With my face shape established, I'll go in and work on the brow ridge, focusing on those eyebrows and the socket, and kind of build out the details of the face. Working in a more free and less structured style like this is kind of the opposite of the technical drawing that we did last month. It is a great way to warm up and to develop your observational skills. Next, I'll go in and add some more details like the cheekbones and the lips, trying to maintain a consistent but soft pressure with my charcoal. We can get a really rich black when applying enough pressure, so it's important to stay light in the beginning. In order to create the illusion of form, like we were talking about earlier in the video, I'm going to go in and smudge certain areas. I'll be focusing on the temples, the brow ridge, and the sides of the face in order to create an illusion of form. This is going to be the exact same principle that we used on our sphere, just on a more complex form. Going back in with our charcoal pencil and a little bit more pressure this time, I'll go in and darken a few areas like the eyes, underneath the nose, and add some details. Now, I'm sure you noticed a few things that were wrong with your drawing as you worked through, and this is the time to correct those things. So I'll go in and darken some shadows, build out our nose a little bit better, and darken up those eyebrows. Charcoal is a great sketching medium, and I really do suggest you try giving this a shot this month. If you want a little bit more color, you can always layer those Derwent pans underneath your charcoal. That's it for this month's video. Hope you enjoyed it, learned a few things, and if you post your work online, make sure you use hashtag SketchBoxMarch. We love seeing what y'all create each month. And if you want to check out any of our previous videos, head over to our YouTube channel where you can like and subscribe. And I'll see you next month.